there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the first vice president of the NFB of PA, and we've got a very special episode for you today. We've got Diane Gordian, who is from the Pennsylvania Department of State, and she's going to be talking all about accessible voting. This was a presentation that was done during coffee with the president and NFB of PA board on the 7th of August. And please, if you have a good idea for a name for that, maybe a little bit shorter, please email whitecanesconnect@gmail.com or give us a call at 267-338-4495. We're looking for ideas. I do want to get to a couple of other things before we get to the presentation with Diane. We still have some convention bags. They have the White Canes Connect logo on one side, and on the front side, it's got a graphic that says Blind at Heart, and it's got the NFB of Pennsylvania logo, and in the middle, two separate pockets that you can put your stuff in. We used ours over the weekend down at the beach. It is a nice big canvas bag, great handles. They are $40, including shipping. So if you want one and didn't get a chance to buy one at the National Convention, we do have a few bags left. Please reach out. Again, whitecanesconnect@gmail.com is the best way to get in touch with us, and we will get your payment info and ship you out a bag straight away. Finally, September 1st is coming quickly. We have the registration now open for the state convention in Erie. If you want to get in on the early bird registration, you've got to do it by September 1st. September 1st is also the cutoff for the bus to Erie. The total cost for the bus is $120 round trip. You've got to get your payments in to the treasurer of your chapter or division. So Keystone and Blind Merchants, send it to me or contact me, and we will get you set up. If you're in one of the other chapters or divisions, please contact your treasurer. And again, you can go over to nfbofpa.org/2024 to learn all about the registration and the hotels and the meal options for the 2024 NFB of Pennsylvania State Convention in Erie, coming up November 7th through the 11th. Now, let's get to the presentation. The next voice you hear will be our president, Lynn Heitz.
Welcome, everybody, to the August edition of Coffee with the President. Things are going to be a little bit different tonight. I do have a couple of announcements that I want to make before I introduce our speaker for this evening. As everybody knows, our state convention is coming up November 7th to November 10th. Registration is live on the nfbofpa.org website. To let you know, registration will be going up as of September the 1st. So you want to get on and do what you need to do. Also, you need to make your hotel reservations. The hotels are listed on the website as well. Those of you who will be taking the charter bus need to get the balance of your money due to your chapter treasurers so that the affiliate can get a check from the chapter treasurer. You can check with your chapter presidents, chapter treasurers to see what you owe. If you put down a $25 deposit, your balance is $95. If you did not pay anything and you want to go to state convention on the charter bus, your balance is $120. So we need to get that money in so we can get all the checks to clear so we can pay for the bus. On another note that is not very pleasant, and I don't know how many of you saw the email that I sent out this morning to the list. Joseph Drenth passed away yesterday. He was found dead in the lavatory at work. Oh my God. And Yeah. So at this time, there's no service or anything. There haven't been any arrangements made. And as soon as arrangements are made, I will share them with everybody. I did talk to Marcia this morning, as you can imagine, losing, a husband, a companion. She is quite beside herself. Her and Joe would have been married 15 years this December.
Oh,
So, please keep her and her mom, Denise, and the rest of Joe's family. He has a brother and a sister. And of course, his parents are still alive. In your thoughts and prayers, because they could really use them. So that's what I have. As everybody who has been to a state convention in the last couple years knows, that we have developed a wonderful friendship with Ms. Ellen Strom, who has graciously come to our conventions and shared updates about the accessibility moving forward with things like the Commonwealth websites and Commonwealth forms and all those lovely things. Well, Ellen was kind enough to put us in touch with Diane Gordian. Diane works for the Department of Elections, the Bureau of Elections at the Department of State. And she has graciously offered to come tonight to talk to us about accessible voting in Pennsylvania and how it works. And she will be taking questions. And I'll let you know when, she'll be asking for questions. Please remember, we say our name. If you have a question, say your name, because she knows her name. And either her or I will recognize you, and you can ask your question. She's very interested to know about our voting experience in Pennsylvania, good, bad, or ugly. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Diane. And Diane, thank you so much for being with us.
all right. Thank you so much, Lynn. So before I get started, I'm going to give you guys a little background of who I am. All right. So my name is Diane, and I am the Civic Engagement and Language Access Coordinator for the Pennsylvania Department of State Bureau of Elections. That's a mouthful, right? So to break down my title, the civic engagement part consists of anything with voter education, voter information, and voter engagement, right? I also oversee voter accessibility in general, making sure that voters who need accommodation when voting, that they know what their rights are and how to vote with assistance. Now, the language access part of my title means that I oversee any and all translations that are needed within our department. I also oversee the multilingual ballot proofing process for all the counties election offices statewide. So any county that offers a ballot in a language other than English, I review it. So previously, me starting with the Department of State, I actually just make a year here next week. But previously, I was a deputy director at Lehigh County Elections Office. So our needs, so I have a lot of experience in election and accessibility needs. So I also want to say that this is my first time presenting in front of your organization. So at the end, if there is any way, any suggestions that I could, that you guys have, that I can improve my, presentations for the future, please let me know. I am always open and always willing to learn and evolve. So, although this is my first time doing a presentation with your organization, I am hoping that it's not my last. All right, so we're actually gonna get started. I did prepare a PowerPoint presentation, and it is accessible. So if you use a screen reader or an assistant device, you'll be able to use that. Okay, and again, I'm learning. This is actually my first presentation with this, so I'm actually gonna share my screen and. We're going to get this show on the road, and let's see if we can get this in presentation mode. Let's show from beginning. All right. So as I go along in this presentation, what I will do is I will be taking questions throughout the presentation. So every subject that I will actually take a break. Okay. That way, if there's any questions on that particular topic, you guys are more than welcome to ask me. If for some reason I don't know an answer or if I am not sure, I will of course let you all know and I will get you an answer. Okay. And any answers that I have to get back to you on, I will make sure that Lynn has that. And also a side note, I did email this presentation to Lynn. So she will be sending that out to you guys later on. Okay. So everything that I'm saying, you guys will also have this as well. All right. So thank you all again for allowing me to speak today. So I'm going to go on with our first slide, and it's titled Voting and Accessibility Laws. So I have a listing of all the laws that pertain to your rights. So Title II of the American with Disabilities Act, ADA for short, requires state and local governments, public entities, to ensure that people with disabilities have a full and equal opportunity to vote. Second, I have the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which is also the VRA for short. So this section also contains provisions relevant to the voting rights of people with disabilities. The VRA requires election officials to allow a voter who is blind or has another disability to receive assistance from a person of the voter's choice. Okay, so anyone that needs assistance, they can bring someone of their choice that can assist them. There are exceptions to this, so it cannot be your employer or any agent of your union or employer. Okay. The VRA also prohibits conditioning the right to vote on a citizen being able to read or write, attaining a particular level of education, or passing an interpretation test. So meaning any voter that needs assistance, they can come in and they can request that assistance and they don't have to show any, testing or anything showing, that they're disabled. Next is the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly Handicap Act of 1984. This requires accessible polling places in federal elections for elderly individuals and people with disabilities. Where no accessible location is available to serve as a polling place, voters must be provided with an alternate means of voting on election day. I am going to make a side note on this, okay? Counties are required to find polling places that are ADA handicap accessible, okay? Next is we have the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. It aims, among other things, to increase the historically low registration rates of persons with disabilities. The NVRA for short, requires, okay, there's that word again, requires all offices that provide public assistance or state-funded programs that primarily serve persons with disabilities to also provide the opportunity to register to vote in federal election. And then lastly, on this slide, the Help America Vote Act of 2002 requires jurisdictions responsible for conducting federal elections to provide at least one accessible voting machine for persons with disabilities at each polling place. The accessible voting system must provide the same opportunity for access and participation, including privacy and independence that other voters receive. Okay, so every single polling place, every single election, there has to be an ADA machine available. Okay, and so and I also want to mention that I know in my days in Lehigh County, when I would do coworker training, I had a specific topic on ADA machines and making sure that the coworkers know how to make sure that it was set up. And I also stressed that I don't care if only one person used it. By law, they are required to have at least that machine set up. Okay. And moving on to the next slide, and then I'm actually going to stop there. Okay. So I have listed some important links. So we have information regarding all options discussed in this presentation is available on the Department of State's accessible voting page. You can also find important information referenced in this presentation on these pages. So I do have 2 links listed. The one link is for the election directives and guidance. And then the other link is your rights and the laws. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Voting systems in ADA compliance. All right. Every polling place in Pennsylvania must have at least one accessible voting machine. Sometimes this could be the general voting system used by all voters, or maybe a separate system with accessible features. For example, in Lehigh County, all the voters, they would vote on a regular paper ballot, okay? And they will take their paper ballot over to another machine and they would insert their paper ballot in that machine and deposit their vote. There was a separate ADA machine that was used for those that had those needs. There was a separate machine, a separate form that they would use. I believe Philadelphia County, I believe everyone uses one machine to vote. So every county uses one of several voting machines that has been certified for use in Pennsylvania by the Secretary of the Commonwealth. So there are multiple vendors. It's not just one. So every county, some counties may use Dominion voting machines. Some other counties may use ES&S. Nevertheless, to learn what system is used in your county, we do have a link that you can go on, search for your county, and it will tell you not only the vendor, but it will also show you what machine is used and how to use it. And I do have the website. It is www.pa.gov/en/voter-support/voting system demos. And again, Lynn has this PowerPoint that she will be sending out. So every county is required to train poll workers on using the system, including how to use the ADA machine, how to use the accessible features on the voting system at each polling place. So every county should be training their poll workers how to use whatever ADA machine that they have available. Okay. Not only making sure that they are trained on the machines, but this information is usually in the county's poll worker manual. At least that's how we had it, right? And we also stress the counties to make sure that they stress to the poll workers that they must have this machine up. It doesn't matter if it's just one person. By law, they are required, to be set up. On a side note, if any of you or anyone that you know experiences any issues, like let's say you run into your polling place and they have either it's not up or they don't know how to, do it, put it together. These are things that you can report them to your elections director, or you can report them to me. Okay. Because like I said, part of my job is voter accessibility. So I want to make sure that the counties are training the poll workers are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if there's a problem, it's very important that I know the who, what, and where, right? So that way it could be addressed appropriately. All right. So I'm actually going to stop at that part. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
Yes, again, this is Sherry. So, so it sounds like you're saying with the machines that I use for accessibility to vote, those machines should always be working.
Yes.
And it should always be somebody there that knows how to operate the machine.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I have not experienced that. What I have experienced is machines, the machines that I use to listen to the responses are not working. I had that happen to me twice. And also when that happened, I had to get somebody that was working the poll to help and assist me in that case, So, and then the last time I actually used for the primaries, I think I used a paper ballot.
Okay.
So in that case, just because I wanted to avoid that problem. But
okay.
I'm in Philadelphia.
Okay.
I vote in my apartment building. I believe the lady who runs our voting system here, her name is Miss Carol. I can't think of her last name, but I believe she was saying she was having problems with the machines during the primary, but I wouldn't know. I can't speak too much on it because I used a paper ballot, but she told me, you went the right way this time. And I was like, wow, no problem. And I was glad that I did.
Yeah. And see, things like that, that's what me being here as, the Department of State, I have to know these things because that way I could find out, the vendor. And I could also reach out to a director, and we could also reach out to the co-worker, and find out what's happening. Is it because you don't know, or you just didn't, or is that, the machine acting up? These are things that I have to know. So thank you for providing me the info that I need so I can address this.
Hi, Diane. How are you?
I'm sorry, I wasn't finished. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. When I went to press the buttons on the machine, I couldn't. It wouldn't adjust the volume. It wouldn't follow the prompts so I could hear, each category. It wasn't doing anything.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Making notes. So just so that you know, I was making notes. I'm a note person. I like to take my notes, and
it's the only way to do it. It's the only way. I have another one for you. So my name is John Skokowski. I live in Delaware County. So I've gone the last couple times. I don't even think they have a machine, and that was never presented as an option whatsoever. And from my limited vision, I didn't see one. So I had to do everything paper ballot. I had brought my son with me. He's 9 now. You know, he can only help so much. So they had me go with an older lady that was a helper. And she was nice enough on the surface, but and again, I have, maybe it's not even anything like, there's no evidence, but I mean, the subtleties, you know, the responses I was giving, she was subtly kind of almost disapproving of when I was giving them, which made me kind of uncomfortable. And I had no idea whether or not what I voted for was actually done. So this time around, it made me uncomfortable enough where I'm bringing somebody with me. One I'm dating is planning to come with me on November 8th to make sure, I vote the way I want to vote. Because again, I don't think you have that machine you're talking about at all. So
they should so every county, so they should. So either it was nobody, because the problem that there is that, you know, people think, oh, well, only one person needs it, so I don't want to, you know, the hassle up, you know, doing all that. And like I said, like that's not acceptable. So
I mean, it was in my son goes to that school, it's in the gymnasium, and you know, it's pretty clear. Like, I'm legally blind, I'm not totally blind, so I think I would have noticed a machine, you know, near the bleachers or the tables, and I didn't notice one. So
yeah, and I mean, like I said, that's something that I can ask, because hey, is it because you guys did not have one, or they just didn't put it up? Because if they did not put it up, that is illegal, and that is a problem. And even me in Lehigh, when I was training poll workers, I would say, I don't want to get sued because you guys didn't have the machine up, right? Because as I was reading those laws that I said in the beginning, the key word is required. It's not an option. It's not if you have time. No, it is required. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And just so that you guys all know, every year we have a week conference with all the elections departments that we all come together, train, talk, and whatnot. And our conference for this year is actually next week. So this is actually perfect timing. I will be presenting on another subject, but I can also add this on as well. Okay. So thank you, John.
This is Emily. I just want to interrupt here for a second. Well, not really interrupt, but maybe get a more formal way of reporting this, because this is an issue. Lynn and I can probably talk with you for a while about everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. So if there's like, maybe we can collect all of the names and email them to, like, what do you need? Just the polling place.
So I need the county, the polling location, the address of the polling location. If you have it handy, that'll be great. And a contact. So that way, if they, you know, like if the county tells me, hey, we trained the poll workers, I could then reach out to John and say, hey, John, they told me that they train these poll workers. So when you go in on election day, you know, if anything happens, let me know.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because we had, there was a place up here in Butler. The voter actually would go in and set the machine up, because it was never set up whenever she went in to vote. It's you know, it's across the state, and there are still some places that I've heard of. It was probably, I think it was last year, maybe it wasn't this year, but there were still some places that did not have an accessible machine, and it was again, it was broken. They didn't have a headset or like any numerous things. So I can put it out, and people can send the stuff to us, and we can just email directly to you.
Yep, you could do that. Absolutely.
So this is Lynn. Diane, I just have a question. Is it appropriate for a poll worker to be assisting somebody in filling out a ballot?
Well, thank you for asking that. And I actually go over that in this presentation as well.
Okay.
The short version is yes, but I will go over that later on.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go on to voting on election day. Okay. All right. So if you need help on election day, you have the right to ask for assistance at the polls. Okay. Let a poll worker know that you need assistance as soon as you check in. If you need help due to a disability, you may bring a person of your choice to assist you in the voting process. Okay. So it could be your mother, brother, your friend, your neighbor, son, daughter. All right. But there are a few restrictions on who you may have help. Okay. So these are who cannot help you. So the judge of election. So the judge of election is a co-worker. They are the one that is in charge of the whole thing on election day. All right. So you have your judge of elections, then you have what is called the majority inspector, minority inspector. Those are the ones that check you in. Okay. So they can assist you if you need assistance. And then you will have either a machine operator that can also assist you and clerk that can also assist you. Okay. So any of the poll workers, Lynn, see, any of those poll workers can assist you if needed, except the judge. All right. They are the only ones that cannot assist you poll worker wise. So judge of elections cannot help, cannot assist. Your union representative. So if you are a part of a union, they cannot assist you. Either or your employer or an agent of your employer cannot assist you. Okay. So as long as that person does not fall in any of those categories, they can assist you. You have that right. Okay. I'm moving on to the next slide. All right. So we have, there is a form that is called the Declaration of Need of Assistance. Okay. So if you need assistance at the poll, before receiving assistance to vote, election officials at your polling place will ask you to complete and sign a form called the Declaration of Need of Assistance. You only need to do this once, okay? You don't have to do it every single time you go and vote, all right? You just need to do this once. All of these forms, they go back to the county elections offices, and the county elections offices processes every single form. And once they have this form, they will mark on your record that you have that right for assistance so that the next time you go and vote, it's already on your voter profile. So you don't have to do it again. Okay. So on the form, it does state that you have to provide the reason that you need assistance. Okay. And like I said, after the first time you receive assistance, your registration record will note that you have the form on file. The declaration form is also available in Spanish, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, and Vietnamese. And the reason that they are available in those languages is because we in Pennsylvania, due to our population, there are certain counties that are required by the voting section 203 of the Voting Rights Act to provide their voting materials in that language due to their population. So, for example, Lehigh County, where I came from, we have a very high Hispanic population. So because of that, we fall under Section 203 of the Voting Rights Act. So we must provide all of our voting and election materials in the Spanish language. Okay. So there are counties that are required to do Spanish and also Chinese. So those are the main languages that we have. And then links to these forms are available through the accessible voting page on the department's website. All right. I'm going to move on to one more slide in this subject, and then I'll see if there's any questions regarding that. Okay. So, ways that you may receive assistance with voting. Voters may receive assistance for any number of reasons, not just a physical disability. Okay. A voter may need assistance because they have difficulty reading, writing, or comprehending the written information on the ballot, even if it is because they are more comfortable communicating in a language other than English. Okay. Next slide. We have voting by mail-in and absentee ballot. Okay. So you must apply to vote by absentee or mail-in ballot by 5 p.m. on October 29th, 2024. So that is the deadline to apply for your absentee or mail-in ballot. Okay. If an issue arises after 5 p.m. on October 29th, that would prevent you from appearing at your polling place on election day, you may be eligible to apply for an emergency absentee ballot. Okay. Some examples of situations that could arise after the October 29th deadline that might justify an absentee. An emergency absentee could be you got injured, you hospitalized, or it could be that your employer directs you to travel outside of your municipality on election day. Things that happen, things that happen last minute. So the deadlines to apply for and return a voting emergency absentee ballot are both 8 p.m. on election day. So you can apply up until election day and, get your ballot right there on the spot, and you can vote and do everything that same day, as long as it's by 8 p.m. on election day. Okay. But as soon as, let's say that October 29th deadline passes and you find out that you're traveling, for work or something happened and you can't be at your polling place, I definitely recommend making sure that you apply for that emergency ballot as soon as possible. Okay. Next slide. Completing your absentee and mail-in ballot. So you are entitled to have someone assist you in voting your absentee or mail-in ballot. Okay. You must sign the voter's declaration on the outer envelope. If you are unable to sign without help because of your illness or physical disability, you may make a mark or have someone help you make a mark in lieu of signing. And then a witness must sign and complete the appropriate section next to the voter's declaration. Next, we have returning your mail-in or absentee ballot to your county election office. Each voter must return their own ballot unless they have a disability that prevents them from delivering their own mail ballot, and they have properly designated a third party to return their voted ballot in writing using the designated agent form. These forms are also available in English, Spanish, and Chinese, and can be located at www.pa.gov/en/agency/vote/voter support/accessible voting. You may also use your designated agent to obtain your unvoted ballot material. So you can designate someone to go and get your mail-in ballot, your envelope, and all of that. Whether using a designated agent to obtain a ballot or return it, always keep a copy of your completed designated agent form for your designated agent to have on hand when receiving or returning ballot materials on your behalf. Okay. Important to know, your county elections office must receive your voted mail-in ballot or absentee ballot by 8 p.m. on election day for your vote to count. So if you end up this is major. If you end up mailing in your ballot, okay, your ballot has to be received by election day 8 p.m. Postmarks do not count, okay? A lot of, people saying, oh, as long as it's postmarked by election day, I'm set, I'm good. And no, that is not the case. Postmarks don't count. It has to be physically in the office 8 p.m. by election day. Okay. Moving on. Returning your mail-in or absentee ballot through a designated agent. Okay. If you did not submit your completed designated agent form to the county previously, okay, before returning your ballot, you can submit the original form with your ballot with the outer return envelope. Okay. So I have 4 steps here listed. So the first step is place only your ballot inside of the yellow secrecy envelope. Okay. For those that have not voted by mail, when you request your ballot by mail, you will receive your packet. You will have your ballot. You will have your secrecy envelope to put your ballot inside. And then you'll have your main envelope. That's where you'll put your secrecy envelope with your voted ballot inside. You seal that. And that main envelope is the one that has the declaration on the back that you must sign and date, okay, for it to count. So do not place the designated agent form inside this secrecy envelope, okay? Just your ballot. 2, you want to make sure that you make a copy of your completed designated agent form to give to your designated agent, okay? You always make sure you have copies just in case anything happens. You can always say, listen, I turned this in. I have it here to cover yourself. And then you can place both your yellow envelope and the original of your completed designated agent form inside the outer return envelope. So do not put that form in the secrecy envelope. You want to put that separate with the secrecy envelope inside the main envelope. And then 4, very, very important, complete the voter's declaration. And if necessary, if there is witness information, there is a part on there that they can sign. Important. If you are voting by mail, to sign and date that declaration, okay? Even if you make that, if you can only make a mark, that's fine. Just make sure that your witness signs that, all right? No signature, it does not count, all right? All right, questions on that part?
When we do the Omni ballot, we have to go in and fill out a different part of the website. And there has been some concern of where the packet or the return envelopes come from. And this was one of the areas that was in question back when we tried to do the Democracy Live wanted to do the training. Well, we wanted to do the training with Democracy Live. The counties were not sure exactly who was sending out the Omni ballot and the return envelope. And on top of that, whether the envelope was to be textured so we would know where to sign correctly on the envelope to return. So I don't know if you could get into that as to if it's still the county that's supposed to be sending us the envelopes, if they made a move to whether or not the envelopes are textured or not to be signed, or if you know anything with regards to that.
Thank you. That was actually my next subject that I was going to touch on. Okay. So, what I will say is that a lot of counties, especially now that there has been such a high turnover rate, right? A lot of them may not know that there is. I came from Lehigh, right? I worked in Lehigh for 5 or 6 years. I only had to do this accessible ballot, the remote ballot, of Democracy Live, I only had to do this once the entire time that I was there. Okay. And of course, I had to research it, but the counties are supposed to send out the materials and the envelopes are supposed to be textured. Okay. There is texture envelope. I know this for a fact because I had a box right next to my desk for that purpose. So I understand that there was a training back in 2022 that there was not a lot of participation in, which is very unfortunate. And Lynn, gave me an overview of that. And again, that is something that I would like to have another training with the counties and encourage them to attend and to come. Not only that, a lot of counties, they have been showing interest in having the accessible ballot, learning about it because, we are in a big election year, right? So a part of my speech that I will be giving next week, it is going to touch on this. And I do want to reach out to Democracy Live and see if I can get not only, I want them, to show me what they do on their end, right? And I just want to get some sort of training. That way I can also, so the counties, can learn so we don't have that problem. So yes, that is something that is on my radar now.
Okay, if you need help with reaching out to them, just let us know.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I'm gonna take all the help that you can, give me. I'm telling you right now. So yeah, I and like I said, I told Lynn, I'm so happy that I'm doing this because I get to see firsthand the issues. And if I could train the counties in certain things so that they could have knowledge of this to assist voters better, that's, that'll make me happy.
This is Kim. So I'm a Philadelphia County resident, and a couple of years ago, I moved into Center City, and the place where I drop off my envelope typically is at the City Hall location, which I've never had any issues with. This time, because I'm closer to this location, the library is at I think the address is 18 South 7th Street, Independence Library. So I made my way around, found the box, I dropped it in, and I did not get the usual email that I get, the confirmation that it was received. I then called Omar Sharif's office, I think that's his name,
Mhm.
and they were pleasant enough, but no one ever found this ballot. So I'm giving a scenario, but my question is, in that case, who would I have contacted or who should I contact?
So if you submitted your mail ballot and the county has not received it yet, right? You have not gotten your notification.
Not right.
Okay. You want to contact the county elections office. Okay.
Okay.
You want to contact them because what they will do is they will look you up. Every mail-in ballot is assigned to each individual voter. So you have a special unique tracking number. Okay. So as soon as that comes in, it gets scanned in directly to your voter record. So usually if you provide them with the email address, if they have an email address on file, as soon as they scan that ballot in, you automatically get that response, right? But
Right.
sometimes technology is not our friend. Okay. So they could very well get it. And for some reason, you just didn't get that email. Okay. But they can look you up and say, and confirm if they received it. Okay. If for some reason they did not receive it, you can request another one. Or if there's not enough time, you can go to your polling place and vote. Okay. Because the poll worker, they'll be able to see on your profile that, yeah, you requested one, but you did not return it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. And I will make sure, or Lynn will make sure that you guys have my information. So yeah. So we're going to move on to what we were just talking about, remote ballot marking. Okay. Next slide. So accessible remote ballot marking solution for mail voting. So accessible remote ballots allow voters who use screen readers and assistive devices to vote a mail ballot privately and independently. Okay. To obtain an accessible remote ballot, an individual must, one, be a registered Pennsylvania voter. Two, apply for a mail-in or absentee ballot by the deadline. Okay. This year is October 29th at 5 p.m. And then submit a request for an accessible remote ballot via one of two methods. There is the accessible web-based request form, or there is an accessible PDF application that could be mailed directly to you, which you could then mail directly to your county elections office. After applying for an accessible remote ballot, the voter receives materials both by mail and email from the county. So I believe that was a question earlier, right? Who sends out this stuff, right? It's your county, okay? So you get it both by mail and email from the county to complete the ballot. The voter must return the voted ballot to the county by 8 p.m. on election day. And again, stressing postmarks do not count. Okay. All right. So we're going to move along. Okay. Issues with voting. All right. Who to contact, all that stuff. All right. So issues while voting at your polling place. If you are having issues at the polling place, you should notify the judge of elections immediately. Okay, they are the ones that are in charge of the polling place on election day. If possible, remain at the polling place, okay, until it's resolved. Once you have signed in the poll book at your polling place, if you leave, you should not assume that you will be permitted to re-enter the polling place later on, okay? Once you have submitted and cast your ballot, it cannot be retrieved. So once you send that ballot in, turn that in, that's it, okay? If you are unable to resolve your issue with the judge of elections, you may contact your county elections office, or there is a hotline. It is 1-877-VOTES, VOTES like Sam, P like Paul, A, VOTES, PA. Issues with your mail-in or absentee ballot. So you can actually track the status of your mail-in or absentee ballot online. So let's say again, you sent in your ballot and you still haven't gotten that email. You can check online first. Okay, and the website is vote.pa.gov/mail ballot status. Okay, so you could go on that website, check and see if it has been received. And then if you don't get your answer there, the best is always call the office. Okay. If you have specific questions about the status of your mail-in or absentee ballot, you should contact your county elections office. If you have general questions about the absentee or mail-in ballot process, you may contact the Department of State voter hotline at that same number, 1-877-VOTES-PA. All right, so that is the end of my presentation that I have at this time. If anybody has any questions, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. So if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, let me know.
Hi, this is David.
Hi, David.
Yes, I have a question. In the past, I'm trying to remote ballot again, the accessible from the Democracy Live. My county was very late getting me the envelopes I needed to send my ballot back. Like I didn't get them till Friday, like Friday afternoon when I got my mail, and it says leave 7 to 10 days, I believe it said, to mail your ballot back in. Well, the election was Tuesday then.
What county
And
is
that was,
that?
I live in Butler County, Western Pennsylvania, Butler County. This has been several years ago. That's why I quit using the remote ballot like that for me to accessible fill it out online because I wasn't getting the materials in a timely manner. Now I don't know. I'm going to try it again this election year and see if I have better luck with it. But that's the only thing I have to say about the getting materials.
Okay. And do you remember like what time frame? Like I applied on a Monday and I didn't get it until the following, Friday.
No, I applied, like I've already applied for this year's election a
Okay.
couple days ago. So it was in a timely manner. It was more than a week, over a week that I had applied for the remote ballot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's been several years ago, and they have a new person in charge of the Bureau of Elections in
Yeah.
Butler County.
Yeah. A lot
So
of counties have a lot of new directors and deputy directors. That's why it's important for me to get the information so I could make sure now that you're saying that I could reach out to county, or since we have our conference next week, I could, talk to them and say, hey, do you know how to do this? First of all, you're going to have a voter, definitely. And so, yeah, thank you for letting me know that.
yeah, and the other
Sam-
thing is on the website when you apply for the remote ballot, the very last page says you've successfully completed it, but then you don't get an email like confirmation that you've completed it. That
Okay.
might be a suggestion, like from the state, like they can email you, hey, your application has been submitted, like it says on the screen, and that way you could have it for your records.
Okay.
That's one suggestion I would have for the website, like when you do fill out a request for a remote ballot.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Diane. Hey, thank you for doing all the work that you're doing. Just to follow up in specifics for my question or my issue and Sherry's issue with the assistive technology machines, if you're going to look into that, which that's great because we have months now to election, is there some way to follow up with what happens? Like, could you send us an email or some kind of confirmation?
Yeah.
Is this just a way to keep in touch of like what the status is of the issue?
Yeah. So if Lynn or someone from the association, I don't know if they can give me information or if I can give it to Lynn, and Lynn, you can actually give that info out.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either myself or Emily, we generally work together on these. This is Lynn, and I have another question. So I'm really having a problem understanding why, if an individual is requesting the omni ballot, why do they have to first apply for the absentee ballot?
And that is a question that I even asked, and it is required by law.
So here's what I'm getting at. So how does the state know that, okay, and I'm going to use Kim as an example. Okay. So Kim's applied for an absentee ballot and she gets the confirmation that's all taken care of. So then she goes in and applies for the omni ballot, for the accessible ballot. Okay. What prevents the Board of Elections from sending Kim a paper mail-in ballot?
So that is a very good question. Like I said, the whole time that I was in Lehigh, I had only one event that, did this. You must have, yeah. That's
I don't know
that's something that I know they're two separate forms, right? Two separate.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if counties get them at the same time, so that they know, or they
Well-
get it? That is a good question that I would like to take back and see what the process is. Because the only thing that would make sense is that they're submitted at the same time. Because you're exactly right. Like, if you send in a mail-in application, that gets processed, and then let's say the next day, they do the request for accessible ballot, it's going to show on the record that they have a mail-in, right?
Right.
So yes, I would like to actually take that back and ask about that, if that's okay.
And quite honestly, I don't know if the omni ballot, if the accessible ballot is even in the quote law, because that didn't happen until 2020. Was it, Emily? Was it the fall of 2020, that election, that we got them to purchase Democracy Live?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that summer.
August.
Of the
August of 2020, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think the accessible ballot is noted anywhere in the law. I think it's just something that the Commonwealth decided to do for whatever reason it decided to do. But I don't understand why, like, our members that want to use the omni ballot have to do two different forms.
Yeah. Like I said, that is a question that I would like to take back and see if there's any legal, I would feel better if I had legal justification X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? So let me take that back and see how the process goes. Obviously, how do they know that this person that applied for a mail-in is also getting the accessible ballot, and what is regulating them of having to apply for the mail-in? So that is something I would like to follow up with.
Thank you.
My question, well, I just want to get this out there. Our end game would to be fully accessible. Like what Lynn was touching upon here, there's so many additional steps, and like that we have to, you can't have a education test, but we have to fill out two different forms. The other end of that is, I thought part of this we had to print out ourselves as well. And there are people who can't print, don't have, why would they need a printer? First off, because they don't read print. And nobody wants to vote at the library. I don't know. I know people who have had done it because they don't have a printer. What is the likelihood? Or I don't even know if you could answer that, but I would just like to know your thoughts on, electronic submission.
Yeah, and you know what? That has been a question that has been lingering for many years, especially with our military voters and our overseas, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them, well, if you can email me the materials, why can't we email them back, right? And a lot of it is security. That's the main thing, is security, because if we were to do something like that, there would have to be an overhaul and some sort of technology to make sure that nobody can hack in to your stuff and make, any corrections. So a lot of that is technology, is security. So that has been questioned. That has been a question that we always get all the time. But yeah, it comes down to security. And as of right now, there's no conversation in making that happen at this moment. Can that change? Anything can happen, right? But as of right now, I know security is like the top number one reason why that's just not possible at the moment.
So this is Lynn, and just to kind of jump in before Stacy, there are several states in the U.S. who do have electronic submission for their ballots. So instead of reinventing the wheel, what about reaching out to one of those states, because they've been doing it for quite a while?
That could, that can be another option, right?
Hmm?
But, and then we have to just talk about money, right? So, that is something that, if I will tell you this, Pennsylvania is behind when it comes to voting in election.
Yep.
We do, our election code was, I believe, initially done in 1937. 37, and there has not been an updated to our election code until Act 77, right? That was back in 2019, enacted in 2020. So we're behind on the time. That I can say. And at this moment, we're not even there yet, or kind of trying to be there yet, because remember, we just started with our mail-in ballot in 2020. So we're trying to get acclimated with that, right? But you never know what could happen in the future.
Back in 2017, when I was voting, I don't live where I lived then, but it was still in Philadelphia County. When I went to go place my vote in, the person did not even know anything about an accessible machine. And at the time I just came by myself. Somebody else was watching my child for me, and they told me that I had to go back home and find somebody to come back with me, because they couldn't help me with the vote. The line was too long. It was too busy. They're sorry for my inconvenience. So I honestly, that year went home and never went back.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and during the pandemic, the second year of the pandemic, during the voting time of the day that we had to vote, I ended up in the hospital. But a few weeks later, which I did announce to Lynn about this, that they sent me a letter in the mail saying that they denied my mail-in ballot, which is really interesting because that year I didn't vote because I was in the hospital. So I feel like there's a lot of security concerns during the pandemic. I don't know if that's been resolved since then. But just between the two encounters I've had, I really feel discouraged in voting. I've been trying to vote. Last year I voted. I had someone come with me because of what happened back in 2017. And this year I'm going to probably bring somebody with me again. But I'm going to try to do the accessible voting machine.
Okay. And what county you live in now?
Philadelphia County, just in a different area of the city.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so sorry that you had to, endure that. That's not okay, right? And that's why I'm here, so if you guys experience any of this in November, now you have the point of contact. Like I said, we have our election conference next week. So this is something that I am going to talk about, and I'm going to let them know that you better be on your A game, because if not, I will know about it. So
Stacy, what's the address of where you go to vote now? Do you know offhand?
Oh, they just changed my voting place. I got something in the mail. I don't know exactly yet, but I'll let you know later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one comment on the accessible PDF. It's my understanding, and I mean, I don't know if there is a way to send it in the mail that's accessible. I don't know of one. It's really hard to read it if it's in print. And if you use an OCR, it's really accessible regardless of whether you call it accessible. So would that be better stated that the accessible PDF can come in an email? I
That
don't
is,
quite understand how it comes in the mail accessible.
can I take that question back?
Sure. Yep.
Get your answer? Okay.
So the Omni ballot, this is Lynn, the Omni ballot does come to your email.
Okay, because even on the website, it says that it's an accessible PDF that can be mailed to you. Like physical mail is what I'm assuming that means.
So I believe it's either or. It says accessible web-based request form, or you can use an accessible PDF application that can be mailed
Yeah, how do you read it?
or email. How do you? Good
Right.
question.
It's just that's an awareness
Mhm.
like comment, I guess. It's much easier for accessibility purposes if it's in an electronic format. So an electronic mail would be more appropriate, at least in my opinion. I don't know. I'd have to ask Stacy. She's more techish. The other comment would be going back to the accessible machines in the county and their availability. It was my understanding that while it's a requirement for each county to have accessible machines, it is not a requirement for each polling place to have an accessible machine.
No,
Mm-mm.
not true.
Okay.
Tell you that. Who do I have to talk to?
Well, I don't know. That was so long ago that
Okay.
it might be old and outdated information.
No.
So I just wanted to clarify that then because I wanted to make sure that if I was wrong, someone would tell me.
No. Every polling place, they have to have one. Every single one.
Let me think. It might be different now. When I was in Clearfield County, the polling place, it's a small polling place. They did have machines there, but they were just the regular ones, and there weren't any accessible ones. It might be different now. This is probably 8 years ago, so I'm hoping they fixed it by now.
Well, I mean, regardless, even 8 years ago, like all of the laws that I read in the beginning, these are laws that were 1964, 2003, 2002. So regardless, you know, eh, they should have it, anyways. It doesn't matter. Um, but again, there has been so much changes with the elections officials. 2020 happened. We went from machine to paper. And again, next week, when I have my meeting with them, I am going to stress that they must have them up, regardless if nobody's going to use it or one person. I guarantee you, there's going to be at least one person every single polling place, every county that will use that. So, and if any of you all or anyone that you know of has that experience where they did not have the machine when November comes, I need to know that immediately.
This is Emily. I just want to add to that. People lie. Okay. Because I know I walked into my own polling place. This polling lady doesn't work here anymore, by the way. And I was just kind of filling out. I'm glad you said that about the assistance form, because they were making me fill it out every time I went there, which was kind of funny. And while she was filling it out, I was there with my husband. I knew exactly what machine they had because I knew I just didn't want to use the talking device.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I was like, oh, I thought the machines are supposed to talk or be excited. Oh no, we don't have any of those here. I just bust out. I don't even know what to say. I went back. I knew the other people work in the place, so I just said something to them, and they're like, we have one actually we have two machines in our polling place, and both of them are accessible. So anybody who comes in, and this was something else that we talked about. Lynn and I have had this discussion with Ellen too. Like in my spot, we all get the same ballot size, and it goes in, and I vote on the machine, and my daughter votes, and my husband will vote. Then we all get the 4.5 by whatever 8, like the skinny one. And then we feed it into the other machine and go. There is no other. I know, like Lynn has gone where hers has been that, and her husband's has been like the full sheet of paper. I said, well, then you obviously know who the disabled person is voting. There's
Now here's the thing. I mean, for what it's worth, no one is going to see those ballots, right? So the paper ballot or the strips that gets deposited, when the poll workers bring those back, those ballot boxes have to be sealed. All right. So we don't even open up those ballot boxes unless there's a mandatory recount, judgment, or something, because all of the votes are recorded on the machine on a USB drive. So that paper is just backup for what it's worth. No one is going to see those ballots.
So they say.
So they say.
And that does raise a larger systemic question of touching on all this, and there's no direct answer. I don't expect you to answer this, Diane, at all, but with all these issues coming up, and we're a very small representative sample, I have to wonder how many people are discouraged from voting with all this, and how many poll election places don't have machines and don't have the support that we're going over. I mean, this is just a very small set of example cases right here. You're talking about all of Pennsylvania. Like, I have to wonder. I didn't think it'd be that big of a problem. Now I'm really wondering. I'm really questioning systemically, where's the oversight?
Well, this is exactly why, Ellen from, the state connected me with Lynn, connected me with you guys, right?
Oh, this is great. I wish there was more of it. Yeah.
So, well, yeah. And I'm just hoping that this is the start of of a beautiful relationship. And, I just want to evolve and do the best that I can in making sure that voting is accessible, for you guys. So suggestions, issues, problems, I have to know it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. If you all have any recommendations, suggestions, there's things that I can't do, like I can't fix the law or break the law or break the law, change the law. I have to wait for some sort of, court order mandated something so I could, implement it. But if I could,
we're good at getting court order.
Yeah, yes, I heard you guys are. So, but I will promise that I will do everything in my power for awareness. Anything that I can do, I will do. My grandparents, they were legally blind, so I had to assist them a lot with filling out forms and, taking them to the doctor. And not only were they legally blind, but they knew no English. So I had to be their eyes and their voice. So accessibility, yes, it's my job, but at the same time, it's also something very personal for me. So I advocate a lot for that need.
I just had a question. Because I usually go to the polls and use the accessible voting machine. How come then we that use the accessible voting machine have a different designation? It doesn't go under R, it doesn't go under D. It's a different designation.
What do you mean? I'm not understanding.
Because when they count the people who vote, they'll say, if you're registered Republican, R number, whatever, vote. And then, or Democratic, D, whatever number. But the accessible voting is a separate designation.
You're right, Michelle. This is Lynn. I never thought about that.
And because of that, there's usually only, one or two, maybe three of us. And to me, that's not fair. I don't like it. I want to be counted either in the Republican or the Democratic, however you're registered. I don't want to be counted under the person who used the accessible voting machine.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. There is a assisted voters log that is a separate log that anyone that requires assistance, the coworkers write their name down. That's probably what you mean, right?
Well, I mean, that just use that voting machine, the accessible voting machine. Yeah.
We're not utilizing a live person at the polling place.
Right.
We're using the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And yet
So
we're not
on that
listed
note,
as an R or a D. We're listed as something else.
This is Emily. I would look into that because I'm not listed anything different.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if that's because coworkers have an assisted voter log that if you need assistance, require assistance, they have to record that. So that's the only thing that I could think of. But regardless, if you're a Dem or a Republican, they record that usually during primaries, right? Because people always want to know, hey, how many Democrats voted? How many Republicans voted? Regardless how you vote, they should still count you as whatever your party is, right? Because that's how you're voting.
Right. Yep.
But I'm wondering if the log that you're referring to is that assisted voters log, that any voter that requires assistance, it has to be reported. So yeah, that is something that I would like to know more. Unless you're of another party during a primary that they have a separate list for, but in the primary, you can only vote if you're a Democrat or a Republican unless there is a question on the ballot. If there's a question on the ballot, then let's say if you're a Libertarian, Green Party, then you can vote in the primary solely on that question. And in that case, there would be a separate list for that.
Well, the good news is that I've invited Diane to come to state convention.
Yeah.
And we're really hoping that, she will be able to come and, we can share some of our voting experiences since election day is November 5th and the convention starts on November 7th. So we're hoping that she will be able to come. Diane, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight and, being patient and responding to the questions that you've been able to respond to. We do look forward to getting any information that you can share with us that you could not respond to tonight. And I will share the PowerPoint on the NFBP talk list. If I don't get to it tonight, I will definitely send it out tomorrow morning. Here is Ellen Strom, and Ellen will also be at state convention. Ellen is the person who graciously connected us with Diane. So, Ellen, can I give you 2 minutes for any updates on the accessibility side?
Well, basically, one of our biggest focuses has been on the public web presence. So pa.gov and different agency websites off of that. Just so happens DOS, Department of State, and Vote started working on, they've actually released into the new look and feel. And we are very happy with how that has been going. And if you still have feedback on any of the pages that you're seeing, let us know. But We have a wonderful relationship with the group who built the templates for us. They built them in an accessible format. We're working with our internal folks to improve the accessibility of those pages as they enter the content. So we feel like a lot of our public website is going to be in a much better place. We've got work with applications behind those pages still, but those upfront marketing type pages and information type pages are really what we have been able to focus on so far. But we've got a plan in place to address the pages deeper. But we feel good about some of those public pages. But again, any issues that you're having, if you want to send it through Lynn, if you want to get it directly to me, a lot of folks on this call, I hope, have my email address direct. If they don't, Lynn, you can always give it to them. Because I'm happy to hear. Well, I'm not happy to hear about issues that people are having, but what I try to do is prioritize the areas of the website that have issues and work with the agencies to get people to address those areas.
So thank you so much, Ellen, for everything you do. And we're looking forward to having you at state convention as well. So those of you who are not on board, you got to get on board the train.
Yep. Right.
I always have a great time. This will be my third year. I love it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you all again for having me. Thank you again. And like I said, it's my first time, but it's not going to be my last. So,
well, thank you, Diane. So our next Coffee with the President will be on September the 4th at 7:30. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and have a great, almost rest of your summer.
Thank you for listening to this episode of White Canes Connect. Please reach out to us via email, whitecanesconnect@gmail.com, with questions, comments, show ideas, guests you'd love to see on the show. Any other questions or comments, please, we want to hear from you. whitecanesconnect@gmail.com. Better yet, you can give us a call at 267-338-4495. You've got up to 3 minutes. Leave your name and town. If you do leave a voicemail, same thing goes. Questions, comments, show ideas, things that you do that you think might be helpful to tell other blind or visually impaired folks. Again, 267-338-4495. Thanks again for listening. Take care.